Hey everyone, I'm JR, and this is one of Mike's mini history lessons. Let's talk geography, or more specifically, countries. How many, and what are they exactly? Simple enough, let's start off with the definition. A country, noun, is a nation with its own government, occupying a particular territory. So what is a nation? A nation, noun, is a large body of people united by common descent, history, culture, or language inhabiting a particular country or territory. Okay, well, that didn't help. First of all, a nation with a government occupying a territory can be so many things. Take America, for instance. We are a large body of people, but we are not united by common descent, culture, language, or history even. Yet America is indeed a nation. We are a nation of immigrants. We have different backgrounds, descents, languages, all within ourselves. So if America is a country, couldn't America's individual states technically be countries too? How about the Native American territories? The answer to these questions aren't simple, but let's try to answer some of them. I can grab a map and just count, but each map is not the same. Depending on who makes the map and where it is can change what is recognized. First of all, many world maps in the United States show the states broken down within a world map. Do I add all 50 to the country count? No. Also, what Americans say are borders won't match, say, China or Russia's idea of borders. Take Chinese maps. Maps made in China have to have their 9-dash line claiming all of the South China Sea and Taiwan, but more on this in a little bit. Okay, next option. Let's go to the United Nations, and let's count all the name tags. Seems like the most logical solution. So, how many is it? Well, since countries like South Sudan, created in the past 5 years, can pop up, and former countries like the Soviet Union can disappear, we have to take into account when we are counting. As of 2020, the United Nations count is 193. So there you have it. Done, right? Not so fast, my friend. Remember our episode on how to become a pope? Where does the pope live? Vatican City. Isn't Vatican City a country? It's not in the United Nations. Also, isn't Kosovo a country? Pretty sure I saw them the last Olympics. They're also not in the United Nations. USA, United Kingdom, and France do recognize them, but Russia and China do not, and veto their membership. They say Kosovo is a part of Serbia still. On the flip side, Russia recognizes South Ossetia, Transnistria, which still uses the hammer and sickle Soviet flag with a green stripe, Abkhazia, and Nagorno, which may or may not actually be parts of Moldova, Azerbaijan, or the country of Georgia, depending on who you ask. What makes these places in particular hard to deal with is that they're usually born from ongoing or recent conflict. Also, they may even look like a country on the surface, with passports, which are only recognized by some places, independent police, armies, currencies, and whatnot. No United Nations member recognizes several of these places, yet all 4 recognize each other as countries. Come to think of it, Northern Cyprus and the Western Sahara may be in that group too. And speaking of passports, the Iroquois Indian Nation inside both New York and Ontario have their own passports, since as a group they are both inside the United States and Canada, yet claim their own identity. They even have their own national lacrosse team with their own passports to travel to Lacrosse World Cup. When the Lacrosse World Cup was held in the United Kingdom, these passports were actually rejected, but we'll come back to sports in a minute. So think of it this way. The United States' independence in 1776. That simply began under the Revolutionary War. To the Brits, we were a rebellion, not a country. We were not recognized until we won years later. Then, the same thing happened with the Confederates. They declared war and their independence during the Civil War. Made their own money and flags too. But they, unlike the United States, were defeated, and now the Confederates don't exist. So many of these situations are pending the results of conflicts. This, sadly, is what's going on currently in Taiwan. But here is why this is tough for countries to deal with. All the currently established nations have to decide whether or not to send ambassadors or open embassies or establish trade with these places. And doing so may anger one nation, such as China, who gets angry when people recognize Taiwan. In fact, China's border disputes alone will eventually be its own lesson. Taiwan is, for all intents and purposes, its own country, but China won't let go from the Civil War era, and they use the fact that they make everything and have a large market as leverage to prevent nations from recognizing Taiwan. So basically, every established nation has to make a choice on every border skirmish on Earth. Another example, Palestine and Israel. But this lesson isn't about politics, so let's just stick to counting countries. All right, how about sports? I told you we'd come back to sports. The Olympics should be the answer. How many countries in the Olympics? 204. Great. It recognizes many territories, such as Puerto Rico, as a country, even though it's part of the United States, Bermuda as independent, even though it's part of the United Kingdom, and Hong Kong as independent, even though it's part of China. Many island territories attached to European countries are counted as independent as well. Also, in the World Cup soccer, or football as it's known everywhere else in the world, and rugby, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland are counted as 4 separate countries, but the United Kingdom calls these 4 home nations. So the UK is a country made up of 4 united countries. Fantastic. In rugby, Ireland plays as the United Island, and Northern Irish can choose Team Great Britain or Team Ireland to play for. And in fact, the United Kingdom flag is actually a combination of the old Irish red X flag on a white background, Scottish flag of a white X on a blue background, and the English flag of a red cross on a white background. Wales got the shaft when the flag was made. They could have at least incorporated the dragon in there somewhere. Oh well. Okay. In fact, most of these Olympic nations don't even claim independence. Also, no Vatican City again. They really just do this to say more than 200 countries compete in the Olympics. But it's really an impossible task to give a number of countries. You have Vatican City, the actual country that is furthest from the definition, and Hong Kong, the non-country closest to the definition of a country. Also, just an aside, how about the nut jobs who plant flags on offshore oil rigs like Sealand off the coast of England? Some dude did that, still lives there, and yes, he says it's a country. But I digress. So for the sake of argument, and to make sure this lesson actually has an ending, let's just say around 200. So what makes a country a country? You just have to get enough other countries to say you're a country. Or at least that's the lesson you would get if Mike was your history teacher.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions or topics for us to cover, email us at 4guysmedianetwork@gmail.com. If you're on the go, you can subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Be sure to check out our Patreon page, 4Guys Media Network, for access to exclusive content like minisodes and more. We have a lot of goals to hit, so we can keep improving and continue providing more content ad-free. So all of your donations are greatly appreciated. Make sure you subscribe to the 4Guys Media Network YouTube channel for all of our other projects by clicking the link on the right. And lastly, if you want to watch another episode, just click the link on the left. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.